if you're traveling out of state this holiday, do you know what your auto insurance will cover in case of an accident? Tom Sinas joining us now to talk about what coverage and what changes may need to be made. It's always a challenge. You get to some other state, some other car, and you don't know exactly, am I covered? What if I'm not?
Exactly. And that's the hardest time to figure all this out.
Right.
And to add on top of that, we had this change in our no-fault law in June.
Sure.
So I think people are going to be even more confused this holiday season.
Sure.
So let's try to break it down simply. Let's start first with no-fault coverage, which of course means, and most importantly, for people who are covered under a Michigan no-fault policy, your no-fault benefits include your medical care. So what happens if you're out of state? Well, if you are the named insured on a Michigan no-fault policy, you are covered for your no-fault benefits if you're involved in an accident occurring out of state or in Canada. Now, that doesn't apply in Mexico. It's just United States, the territories, or Canada. That coverage for no-fault benefits also applies to any of the family members who live with you. So you're covered under a no-fault policy. You and your wife and your children would be covered for no-fault benefits in an out-of-state accident, even if it occurred in a rental vehicle. So in that scenario, it wouldn't make any sense for you at the rental car counter to buy no-fault coverage because you have it through your own insurance company. So that's the no-fault piece. What about liability? What is liability? Liability is that coverage that you may need if, heaven forbid, you do something wrong and someone else is injured. This is one of those forms of coverage you should check your policy or check with your agent before you go to make sure that your liability coverage under your policy here in Michigan would cover you if you're involved in an accident out of state in a different vehicle. Again, the rental car situation. Usually the answer is yes, but don't necessarily assume it to be true. Number 3 is property damage or collision coverage. This is damage to the vehicle, right? And probably the most likely thing, hopefully, that would happen to someone. And again, before you go, review your policy or talk to your agent. You want to know, hey, if I rent a car in Florida and I get into a fender bender, is the damage to the car I rented or the car I hit, is that going to be covered under my policy? That's going to be governed really by the terms of your policy that you have here in Michigan. Again, many policies will cover you, but do that homework before you go because you don't want to be buying this add-on coverage that you're asked to be sold at the desk if you don't need it. Another place you can check for collision coverages is your credit card. Some credit cards have limited types of automobile insurance coverage, but there's specific rules, and one of the most common is that you have to use the credit card to rent the car.
Good point. Yeah, good reminder there.
So I think the bottom line takeaway here is that if you've got a no-fault policy here in Michigan, that's going to follow you on your travels through the U.S. and Canada. When it comes to liability or collision or property damage, check your policy, talk to your agent, and these are pretty basic questions that you should be able to answer so that you're not spending money you don't need to spend.
Yeah, no need to waste the money if you don't have to. Where do people track you down, Tom?
They can find us online at www.sinusdramus.com. Shoot us an email at info@sinusdramus.com or give us a call in West Michigan at 616-301-3333.
Thanks, Tom.
Thanks, Derek.